Chapter 4. Conquest of Pezun. The destruction of Seoul led to a cutoff in the energy supply to the floating gun platforms, forcing a slight retreat in Pezun's defense line. But the new decides weren't the type to remain passive in such circumstances. Determined to reverse this setback, new defensive strategies were being devised in Pezun, ready to be set in motion. Meanwhile, upon receiving the report from Task Force Alpha stating Pezun has become a space fortress, the Federation forces became determined to fully deploy the Earth's home fleet for the conquest of Pezun. Under the command of Admiral Brian A.E.U.G, the Earth's home fleet, along with the X-detached fleet, were set to lead the charge toward Pezun. The formidable A.E.U.G. Amongst his soldiers, due to both his demeanor and actions, he was fondly nicknamed the Vulture Admiral. Though previously having withdrawn from active combat to serve as principal of the Earth Federation Forces Officer Academy, the unfolding events had recalled him to his role as a commander. Despite his less than stellar reputation within the Federation government, underlying factors within the Federation forces compelled his reappointment. While there was a determination to forcefully suppress Pezun and the new decides, strong sentiments persisted within the Federation's ranks, hoping for a peaceful surrender. Placing the highly esteemed A.E.U.G in command was an attempt at facilitating this negotiation till the end. Respect for a man isn't swayed by ideological differences. Yet, no one had anticipated that this calculated move, using A.E.U.G's influence to achieve a bloodless victory in Pezun, would spectacularly backfire. Moreover, the Federation forces had argued to the government that given the depleted military strength from the Grips War and the shortage of experienced commanders, A.E.U.G was the only suitable candidate. The government had little choice but to accept this conclusion. A young worker aboard a small maintenance vessel thought, "The word majesty surely exists for this very site." At that moment, almost the entirety of the Earth's home fleet, including the vessels stationed at the Space Fortress Solomon, had assembled at the low-orbit liaison station Penta. The tiny utility boat dragging a conspicuously large container, headed toward the mooring boom where the vessels of the X-detached fleet, set to depart in an hour, were docked. As the time for departure loomed, the young worker had been hastily instructed by his superiors to transport this baffling container to the flagship Bull Run. Judging by its size, it must be a mobile suit or a large weapon. Loading such cargo just before departure seemed illogical. Recalculations for propulsion would be needed, he mused. The shipping label simply read New Equipment G, presumably a code name. G probably stood for gun. His cursory thought was that it must be some new cannon, after which he didn't give it much more thought. Dominating the scene were the Bull Run and Marengo, two modified Magellan-class space battleships, surrounded by 8 modified Salamis-class space cruisers, Pasadena, Volgograd, Panama, Kashima, Brasilia, Dandenong, Stockholm, and Dortmund. Also present were 2 modified Columbus-class transport ships, Iwo Jima and Ivan Rogov, repurposed as mobile suit landing ships, and 6 regular Columbus-class transport ships. Numerous smaller utility boats darted around them. The flagship of the new Decide Suppression Force, Battleship Bull Run, proudly displayed a flag plate indicating the Admiral's presence. This ship was a Magellan-class battleship retrofitted for mobile suit operation. In old naval terms, it would be an aviation battleship. Inside, A.E.U.G, in his assigned officer's quarters, was immersed in the nostalgic mix of scents, a blend of rotten onions and a tangy aroma, a trademark of veteran space battleships. Although the newer ships like the Pegasus III were filled with the fresh scents of paint, plastic, and metal, veteran ships exuded a peculiar smell that could be nauseating to the uninitiated. After all, they were surrounded by the vacuum of space. One couldn't just open a window to let the smell out. The ship's air conditioning system wasn't always reliable. These were military vessels, not luxury cruisers. Human comfort was secondary. Veteran crew members could recognize this scent on one another. Deodorants were of little use. During extended battle voyages, the inability to shower meant the smell of the crew became even more pronounced. A seasoned space sailor is akin to a scavenger, or beggar was a joke older crew members often used on the rookies. It's even said that the only thing smelling worse is the helmet of a normal suit. In the midst of this, A.E.U.G's thoughts drifted back to a man who had sought him out on Earth about a month ago. The man began by introducing himself as someone from Anaheim Electronics on Luna. His slim and somewhat elongated figure spoke of a life nurtured under lower gravity rather than a robust build. The perpetual sunglasses, shielding against the harsh terrestrial sunlight, were yet another hallmark of those accustomed to life in the cosmos. His ill-fitting black jacket suggested he wasn't in a job that required stellar interpersonal skills. A.E.U.G perceived an air of the military about him. A glance at the man's feet revealed his ongoing struggle with Earth's gravitational pull. Fresh from orbit, perhaps. His features were nondescript, save for the somewhat angular contours of his face. Offering a chair, the man accepted with a formal nod, carefully settling into it. "Can we keep this brief? I must return to space soon, and the preparations are quite taxing." "Forgive the directness, but are you, by any chance, a spacenoid?" "I fancy myself a humble Earthnoid, though one might question that claim nowadays. Is that the new greeting trend on Luna these days?" With a wry smile, the man divulged his identity. He was Zeonic, belonging to the very instructor corps that A.E.U.G was preparing to face off against. "Then might you convey to Cod, Cray, Pashley, and the others that they'd be wise to surrender? A mutual aversion to unnecessary bloodshed, especially of such esteemed soldiers as yours, would be desirable. I can't recommend a surrender on my end. I took the risk of being apprehended by the Federation Force's military police to come to Earth, just to let you in on our intent. We have no intention of losing. Few in the Federation Forces match the skills of our instructor corps. You, sir, of all people, should know that." Zeonic passionately elaborated on why his instructor corps was compelled into their present course of action. "We are ultimately prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice for Earth and Earthnoids. I implore your understanding. Hara Kiri." An archaic reference. Certainly, it alluded to the samurai, warriors of the East. A.E.U.G faintly discerned Eastern roots in the man, but Zeotomy's impassioned plea possessed an eerie fervor, and unbeknownst to him, A.E.U.G found himself gravitating towards their cause. Perhaps his own disillusionment with the current Federation forces played a part. He had always seen the military as a noble institution, not the vocational school it had become. He felt a sense of pride knowing individuals like Zeotommy still existed. The military's purpose was to protect the nation, not the present feeble Earth Federation government. He would lay down his life for the true essence of the nation. The embers of romanticized heroism, characteristic of many a soldier, stirred within the old admiral. Before he knew it, he was all ears to their proposition. Luna, establishing a regime there. An audacious plan, even for Lieutenant Cray. From a man from the instructor corps, Zeotommy glimpsed an ineffable excitement in A.E.U.G's eyes and smirked. His true nature was unknown, even within the corps. Meanwhile, as they awaited the main fleet's arrival, Task Force Alpha's mobile suit squadron continued their combat training in shifts. The pilots of the Gundam mobile suit from the Pegasus III, while seasoned, fell short of Lieutenant Manning's expectations. Rio routes, in particular, showed no inkling of teamwork, and this became Manning's primary focus. Routes, next, team up with the Phaz Squad and Plus Squad. Obeying Manning's command, the S Gundam positioned itself in front of the 2 Zeta Plus units. 3 Phazes trailed in the last line, and together with the ES Gundam, 6 mobile suits formed a triangular formation. Switch to a vertical formation, a fingertip formation of 3 each. In his cockpit, the continuous flow of orders was beginning to grate on Roots. He detested being dictated to. The constant switching from high to low had gone on for an hour. Damn Mannings, he cursed internally. Roots. Rio Roots. Can you not hear me? While Roots was absorbed in hurling silent insults at Mannings, the other 5 had already formed up. He quickly moved the S-Gundam to the front left of West Zeta Plus. Quit piloting, you're fired, shit for brains. Thanks to your daydreaming, our formation has taken 2 or 3 direct hits from enemy beams. The enemy will not wait for you. If this was real combat, I wouldn't be penning a letter of your tragic demise to your family. Instead, I'd tell them how their useless son led our fleet to annihilation. Think about that. As he spoke, Mannings recalled Roots's family situation from his personnel file and instantly regretted his words. Roots was livid. Shove it, old man. It's too bad for you. Both my parents have long passed away. He was aware of his mistake, but felt the reprimand was excessive, especially coming from the very military organization responsible for his parents' death. As much as Mannings's words infuriated him, the suppressed laughter of his fellow pilots wounded his pride more. You're good at shouting orders from the bridge, but can you back it up? I don't like that attitude of yours. If you're so damn strong that you can act all high and mighty, then come and challenge me. You think you can defeat me? Intriguing? All right, Plus and Foz teams, return to base. If you beat me, Roots, I'll take back what I said. Just don't wet yourself. Don't patronize me. As the S-Gundam remained, the other 5 mobile suits reversed their course, leaving streaks of pale exhaust trails as they set their return path to the Pegasus 3. Give it your best, darling, quipped Crypt from the Foz as he returned to the ship. Meanwhile, Admiral A.E.U.G's X-detached fleet, equipped with orbital altitude escape boosters, launched as planned towards Pezun. The only unexpected occurrence was the last-minute inclusion of a container labeled New Equipment G aboard the mobile suit hangar of the flagship Bull Run. Inside was a mobile suit, a Gundam, originally prepared for the colony laser battle, but stored at Penta without seeing any action. Due to the current crisis, its deployment was fast-tracked to join the Pegasus 3 and other Gundam-type mobile suits. This decision stemmed from the dangerous curiosity of military personnel, the irresistible urge to use available weaponry. What's wrong? Can't you find me, Roots? Mannings's voice echoed in the cockpit, but the elusive machine was nowhere in sight. Frustration gripped Roots. Just as he questioned Mannings's whereabouts, a slight impact jolted the S-Gundam's left leg. Damn, below. Turn off all power to your left leg. It's useless now. Red paint from a marker pellet smeared the S-Gundam's left leg. From below, the instructor's modified mobile suit, a special version of the Nero, rose, evading Roots's firing, making a series of barrel rolls before lining up a shot directly at the S-Gundam's cockpit. You'd be dead by now, Roots. Roots was flabbergasted. On paper, the S-Gundam was superior, but it seemed pilot skill could easily upend mechanical advantages. Ironically, his realization mirrored what enemy pilots felt during an S-Gundam soul attack. One more time. Give me another chance, Mannings. Without realizing it, Roots genuinely pleaded with a superior officer for the first time since joining the Federation forces. This shift pleased Mannings. All right. Fair enough. It seemed the boy had grown some backbone and was understanding the true nature of war. Manning smirked, ready for the next round. March 6th, Universal Century 0088. It's the second day since the X-detached fleet departed from Penta. This event is 5 days after Task Force Alpha destroyed Seoul. Admiral A.E.U.G, from his elevated seat on the bridge of the Bull Run, sent a knowing glance to the captain. The crew of the battleship Bull Run were mostly A.E.U.G's former close subordinates. He already had full control of this ship. By this point, they were in a space where Penta's mobile suits and ships could no longer pursue. Furthermore, the Task Force Alpha was unable to move from Pezun. "Admiral," the captain said firmly, passing the microphone to A.E.U.G. They exchanged looks and nodded. "To all officers and men of the Earth Federation Forces Home Fleet X Detached Fleet," A.E.U.G began. "This is Brian A.E.U.G speaking. As of now, we are changing our orders from the Federation's High Command. We are to rendezvous with the soldiers of the Instructor Corps, now calling themselves the New Decides. In light of recent events, I, as a minor functionary, perceive that our concept of justice lies with the New Decides. They argue that the Earth sphere is ultimately for Earth, with Earth being the core. We should not succumb to the Spacenoids, who have risen amidst the chaos of past conflicts, and to the puppet government that has become their pawn. I judge that the Earth Federation forces should not follow such an order. If you have pride in being an Earthnoid, never comply. Therefore, this is not a rebellion against the Earth Federation government or its military. The Earth Federation forces are an army fighting for Earth. Recall the 1-year war. Where did justice lie, on Earth or in the colonies? Those who disagree with my decision should leave the fleet within 12 hours. Only those who truly hold pride as Earthnoids should stand with me. I await your wise decision. Long live the Earth Federation. That is all." The broadcast concluded with applause and cheers from the bridge crew of the Bull Run. As this broadcast aired, a sense of unease spread among the officers and crew. Has the Admiral gone mad? But they also understood the sentiment that the Earth Federation couldn't become a puppet to the Spacenoids. Questions poured into the Bull Run, but once they realized that the Admiral wasn't insane, the communications between other ships increased. They were all uncertain of what judgment to make. "The Pasadena and Dannon have reported their intent to leave the fleet," the captain informed A.E.U.G, reading from a note handed to him by a communications officer. A.E.U.G nodded and ordered, "Arrange for those who wish to leave each ship to transfer to the transport vessels." The fact that only 2 ships desired to withdraw was a testament to the lengthy tenure A.E.U.G had enjoyed as the principal of the Federation Military Academy. Most of the fleet's captains and senior officers were his former students. 12 hours passed. The Pasadena, Dannon, and 2 Columbus-class transport ships detached from the fleet. This event would later be known as the Admiral's Rebellion. From then on, the A.E.U.G fleet broke contact with Federation Command and vanished. As news of A.E.U.G's fleet defection arrived, the Earth Federation Command plunged into panic. This fleet had advanced into space where pursuit was now impossible. Moreover, with this powerful fleet raising a rebellion, the strategy to conquer Pezun was completely upended. Presently, the A.E.U.G fleet is heading toward the rear of Task Force Alpha. If they clash, Task Force Alpha wouldn't stand a chance. News of the Admiral's rebellion was swiftly communicated to Task Force Alpha. "What? Does this mean that our main force has almost entirely gone over to the enemy?" Heathrow felt his strength drain. What is High Command saying about this? Task Force Alpha is to withdraw from the current sector and move to the confrontation space area immediately. "The Lunar Orbital Fleet will pursue the A.E.U.G fleet," came the reply. The Lunar Orbital Fleet. The Lunar Orbital Fleet, a patrol fleet that orbits the Moon, based in Von Braun City, is less powerful than the Earth fleet, but has strength comparable to A.E.U.G's fleet. Command intends to pit this fleet, which was patrolling a neighboring sector, against A.E.U.G's. The Lunar Orbital Fleet is now set to take the A.E.U.G fleet's place as the primary force in the assault on Pezun. Meanwhile, at Penta, preparations for Y and Zeta detached fleets of the home fleet to depart were hastened. What had until now been treated as an incident within the Federation forces was suddenly taking on the appearance of a war. This was the worst-case scenario that the Earth Federation forces, already seen as an ineffective organization due to its inability to curb the strife between the Titans and A.E.U.G during the Grips War, desperately needed to avoid. Once more, they were at risk of losing their already tarnished authority. "Let me organize a strike team," Drake Pashley pleaded with Cod, a request he had repeated several times. "All I ask is a single cruiser under my command." "What do you think, Tosh?" Cod turned to Cray, who was standing at his side, to seek his opinion. "It's an utterly futile request," Cray replied, casting a cold glance at Pashley. "What can one measly cruiser do against a massive fleet? In our current situation of inadequate fleet strength, the notion of solo operations is simply irrational." Pashley was one of the core members of the rebellion that had led to the formation of the new Decides. "You're not getting cold feet, are you?" At Cod's inquiry, Pashley was taken aback. The new Decides, having lost track of the Federation forces due to communication jamming and laser communication interference, had dispatched team member Sayatomi to Earth for preliminary operations with A.E.U.G. Unbeknownst to them, their commander had actually started a rebellion. They had regarded these preliminary operations as merely buying time. Naturally, they believed this fleet, commanded by A.E.U.G, to be the main force for the assault on Pezun, as always. To the soldiers of New Decides, now forced to consider the entire Federation forces as enemies, this fleet seemed overwhelmingly formidable. It wouldn't be surprising if some began to think that surrendering to the Earth Federation forces might be a better option. "I'm not scared," Pashley retorted sharply. "It's disheartening to be misconstrued that way. Now that our floating gun platforms have been silenced, I propose forming a mobile gun platform unit at Pezun's forward position. I didn't say I need an entire mobile suit unit with me." "That's not the point, Drake," Cod replied firmly. "We simply don't have the ships to spare for such a trivial mission." With a glare at Cray, Pashley stormed out of the command room. "It might be wise to keep an eye on him. He has the look of a coward," Cod mused. "Indeed, Tosh," Cray agreed. "I understand why the troops are uneasy. If we continue this standoff with the enemy, it's clear that our morale will crumble. Perhaps it's time to—" "A purge," Cray interjected. "Certainly, we need discipline within our ranks. It will affect our future plans." "Are you suggesting we make an example of Drake? In other words, you're telling me to execute him?" "Exactly," Cod confirmed. "I'm not concerned, but we need to show the troops your loyalty to make them accept this." "Understood," Cray nodded. "Josh and I will handle it. Speaking of which, about that plan, Cod, I've thought of a way to use Pezun." "Oh, what is it?" "We'll let them have Pezun and make our escape," Cray explained. "Once the enemy fleet approaches the now empty Pezun, we detonate a nuclear device here and inflict damage." "I see," Cod said thoughtfully. "But that would require us to effectively camouflage our withdrawal." "We can have Pashley take care of the diversions and support," Cray suggested, his blue eyes emanating an eerie brown light. Note: brown signifies deception in this context. He'll be executed as a traitor for communicating with the enemy. Everyone will accept that. "Very shrewd," Cod admitted. "We must make effective use of our limited forces," Cray insisted. "We will have him die for our cause." "By the way," Cod queried, "are we in contact with the people in Air City as we plan our retreat?" "Sayatomi is working on it," Cray replied. "We recovered a communication drone that suggests things are going smoothly. It's ironic. Our means of communication with the outside world have regressed to the age of sending letters." Cray flicked a small optical disc between his thumb and forefinger, making it flutter. "Hey, the enemy won't set foot on the lunar surface again. We have the upper hand now." "Captain, we have received a communication from the Lunar Orbit Fleet," reported a crew member. As ordered, Heathrow had positioned the fleet in the space sector opposite Pezun at a 180-degree angle. The entire fleet was already level 1 combat alert. Then the laser communication arrived. "Very well," Heathrow acknowledged. "No signs of the A.E.U.G fleet," the report continued. "They appear to have altered course." "Changed course? They're not heading for Pezun?" "That can't be possible." "That is correct," the crew member confirmed. "The lunar orbit fleet plans to rendezvous with us and initiate the assault on Pezun." What madness! What if that fleet strikes our rear during the assault? Heathrow exclaimed. Logically, Heathrow's outrage was warranted. However, the Earth Federation forces were desperate to resolve the situation as quickly as possible. 8 vessels from the lunar orbit fleet appeared 9 hours later in Pezun's sector. The battle plan set by the Federation's command was to be followed as is. In essence, to trap Pezun by launching attacks from opposite directions with the 2 fleets. Simultaneously, an emergency message was received from the Side 4 garrison forces. They had spotted the A.E.U.G fleet and engaged them, reportedly destroying at least 2 ships. Fortunately, there were some A.E.U.G ships undergoing repairs at Side 5 following the colony laser battle, bolstering their firepower. However, the friendly forces suffered significant losses and seemed unable to pursue further. After the clash, the A.E.U.G fleet vanished once again. Where is the A.E.U.G fleet headed? The moon? Side 3? Or Confeto? Even after examining the A.E.U.G fleet's projected course, Heathrow couldn't determine their destination. Any of those were possibilities. But at least he was now relieved of the worry of an ambush during the Pezun battle. Later, it would be revealed that the confrontation between the A.E.U.G fleet and the Side 4 garrison was a planned move. The attack will commence tomorrow, the 7th, at 0600 Earth Standard Time. Will proceed in 2 stages, ship artillery and mobile suit units. As Heathrow relayed the Earth Federation High Command's orders, concern for the A.E.U.G fleet's course still lingered. The next day, March 7th, all the pilots on board the Pegasus 3 assembled in their cockpits in preparation for the upcoming operation. In addition to the S Gundam, Zeta Plus, and Foz pilots from 3 Nero units, another mobile suit squadron belonging to the Pegasus 3, were present. The leader of the Nero team was the battle-hardened veteran, Lieutenant Chung Young. To the other pilots, he seemed as annoyingly vocal as Manning's. Manning started the operational briefing solemnly. At 0600, our fleet and the lunar orbit fleet will advance to effective firing range from both wings of Pezun and initiate artillery fire. Our mobile suit teams will sequentially launch with the 3rd barrage of ship artillery fire to secure Pezun's port. The launch order for this ship is as follows: Rio Routes S Gundam. Me first? Hell no. How about I go instead? At least for now, my squad doesn't have any achievements, so I'll take out enemies right away, Crypt interjected. Listen up. This is an order. We cannot alter the launch sequence for your convenience. Moving on, the next are the 2 units from the Plus team. West seemed uneasy. The enemy's barrage during the Seoul attack was the most terrifying moment of his life. You scared? Crypt remarked sarcastically, giving West a playful knock on his head. After all, we're just supposed to fight recklessly and die first, right? When Roots responded by patting Crypt's shoulder, both of them were met with a fierce punch to their faces. Shit, that fucking hurt. Chung Young from the Nero team stood before them. Is this some kind of joke aimed at us? Idiots, psychopaths, cowards. If only we had Kansas's country girl, it would be like the Wizard of Oz. Listen up, you brats. Who the hell do you think you are? Don't let the fact that you're riding decent mobile suit go to your heads. Unfortunately, you are the main mobile suit force on this ship. We can't work with you if the main force acts like this. I'd gladly throw you out of the airlock right now. Enough. Manning shouted at the furious Chung Young. However, the mutual distrust that had emerged wasn't something that could be easily dispelled. The endless darkness of space was suddenly illuminated by bursts of light. At 0600, the curtains rose on the battle to capture Pezun. Both Task Force Alpha and the Lunar Orbit Fleet released a barrage of powerful artillery fire. Each ship's guns had been calibrated to fire with just fractions of a second's delay. Beams of energy successively obliterated the surrounding Pezun satellite missiles. Given the troubles Task Force Alpha encountered, any remnants that looked like they'd been transformed into missile satellites were swiftly obliterated. As the third volley fired, one after another, mobile suits were launched from the catapults. The few satellite missiles that survived the barrage began moving towards the fleet. Recognizing this, Krip's Faz squad instantly began to annihilate them with their high mega cannons. Last time, they hadn't had the time to deploy their mobile suits, and they'd suffered the loss of 2 ships. But this time was different. Damn, they're just rocks. We can't afford to fall behind. After the Faz team, in tandem with the fleet, had taken down most of the satellite missiles, they quickly approached Pezun. Roots' S Gundam was in its standard humanoid mobile suit mode this time, and the Zeta Plus was similarly configured. Something's off. Entering the zone littered with non-functional floating gun platforms, Roots was taken aback by the eerie silence of the battlefield. He instinctively checked the enemy search data. Enemy search radius: 13,000. Sector A: green. Sector B: red. Range: 4,000. Sector C: green. Sector D: green. Sector E: green. Sector F: yellow. Range: 10,000. From the right? The moment that thought crossed his mind, a beam shot towards him. Twisting the S Gundam's body downward to the right, the beam barely missed him. Damn it. Roots swiftly turned towards the source of the beam. Rio, don't break formation. It was West's voice. Shut it. There's an enemy out there. Weren't we targeting Pezun? Red beams grew in number and intensity. A beam directly hit and obliterated a Nero that was passing through the right quadrant. Our allies are being slaughtered. I'm going in. The S Gundam accelerated, heading straight for the source of the beams. Where are you going, Roots? Pezun is your target. From the Pegasus 3 bridge, Manning shouted into the mic, watching the glowing dot representing Roots' machine veer off on the tactical monitor. I've got incoming beams from the enemy. If we don't act, our casualties will increase. Ensure our ship guns don't hit me. It's not your job to worry about Allied casualties. Ignoring Manning's furious shout, Roots pushed forward. Ahead, intermittently illuminated by the explosions from Pezun and the reflected beams of the ship guns, he spotted a blue mobile suit. He recognized it, the Instructor Corps specialized machine, the new Decides. Out of my way. The S Gundam's shoulder beam cannons roared to life. A Gundam type, huh? The pilot of the blue Ziku Ains, Josh Offshore, was taken aback by the approaching mobile suit. During the attack on Seoul, its image was so different that he hadn't recognized it as a Gundam type. Offshore swiftly elevated his machine in anticipation of the incoming assault. 2 streaks of light sliced through space. I've got the higher ground. The words were driven by Roots' frustration. A gut feeling that Offshore was clearly more skilled than he was. The S Gundam moved to cut off the Ziku Ain's path. Always direct, always linear. What's the matter, Gundam pilot? Think I'm just an amateur? Watching the maneuver, Offshore scoffed. The way this mobile suit moved was entirely different from any he'd seen. It was entirely too naive and lax. He felt a surge of confidence. Just because you're in a Gundam. Offshore aimed at the S Gundam that had appeared right in front of him. Point-blank range. Doesn't mean you're invincible. With lightning speed, bullets sprayed from his machine gun. They struck the S Gundam's chest, sending shards of bright blue and yellow paint, along with fragments of Gundarium alloy, flying in all directions. "That hurt," Roots exclaimed, feeling a jolt in the cockpit. It wasn't from physical pain, but a visceral reaction. Alarm. Chest hit. 60%. DAMAGECONDITION. RED. Immediate withdrawal from frontline required. Beep, beep, boop, boop, blah, blah. Shut the fuck up. Roots bellowed at the alarm ringing in his helmet. Alice. Hurt? Hurt? Hurt. Undecided. Annoying? Annoying. Undecided. Suddenly, the alarm ceased its wail. Roots briefly noted its absence, suspecting a mere circuitry glitch, and pressed on in piloting the S Gundam. The Zeku Ains in his sights were all he could see. Yet each time the S Gundam poised to fire, the Zeku Ains evaded with a swift, intricate maneuver. Who is this guy? A novice or a true fool? Offshore felt an increasing irritation towards the persistently chasing S Gundam. His squadron, alongside the 2nd Assault Team, had been orchestrated to give the impression that the new Decides still held Pezun, inflict minor damage on 2 or 3 enemy mobile suits, and then retreat to rendezvous with the fleet evacuating Pezun. But another urgent task weighed on him: the disposal of the traitor ordered by Cray. He couldn't afford to be late for their rendezvous. Best to settle this here, lest it becomes a nuisance later. As Offshore readied another shot, 2 beams streaked by at close range. 2 triangular craft approached rapidly. Zeta mass production models. The same cutting-edge suits Cray had informed him about after the Seoul assault. "Are you holding up, Rio?" West, recklessly deviating from his orders, had followed in pursuit of Roots. "Spare me your needless concern. Focus on yourself, you nosy idiot." Roots snapped. The Zeta Plus, having shifted to its high mobility mode, sped past him. This mode, while granting great speed, was less agile than its humanoid form. While distracted by the Zeta Plus, the Zeku took the opportunity to gain distance, melding into the vast cosmic void. Oh hell. West, propelled ahead by the acceleration, gasped at the sight before him. Emerging from Pezun and heading straight below the fleet's attack direction, the new Decides vessels were launching at top speed. This wasn't a sortie. It was an escape. They're fleeing. Realizing this, West quickly reported the scene via laser communication to Pegasus 3. They're directly below the attack axis. Understood. Manning, having received the report, relayed it to Heathrow. It was instinct. With the retreat of their fleet and mobile suits, something was amiss. And with a man like Tosh Cray among the enemy, it had to be a trap. It's a trap. I'm going to issue orders to abort the operation. That's why we can't see their fleet. Heathrow made his decision, and orders for the mission's immediate termination were broadcast urgently to all units via emergency frequencies and omnidirectional laser communication. What? Return? A trap, you say? Impossible. Faced with sporadic beam weapon resistance and almost about to latch onto Pezun's exterior, the FOZ team under Crypt were ordered to return. And I haven't downed a single one. A frustration of no conquest welled up. Heathrow instructed his communications officer to send an explanation of the withdrawal to both the Lunar Orbit Fleet Command and the Federation High Command. A lone cruiser from the new Decides of the Lunar Orbit Fleet approached their fleet, signaling a ceasefire. Yet, the 2 accompanying mobile suits attacked, compelling a retaliation and the cruiser's subsequent destruction. Little did anyone know that aboard that cruiser were the new Decides rebels, including Pashley, and that the 2 accompanying mobile suits were Offshore's and Cray's Zeke, sent to eliminate them. What? They've caught on? Cod was on the bridge of the fleet flagship, the Kilimanjaro, tracking the movements of the Federation fleet and mobile suit units. The mobile suit unit was retreating from Pezun, moving towards their respective motherships. It was unavoidable. "Brave," said Cray, laying a hand on the frustrated and visibly angered Cod's shoulder. "Now that they've noticed, blowing up Pezun won't have the impact we desire. Besides, our fleet hasn't reached a safe distance yet. If we detonate it early, we'll be caught in the blowback ourselves. So the destruction of Pezun will be in vain." Cod murmured. "No, not in vain," Cray assured. "It will be our firework, a declaration of our intent. We will pay back this debt." The new Decides fleet was voyaging towards the Promised Land, sailing with a heavy but firm resolve, much like the Israelites led by Moses through the wilderness. "Prepare to detonate Pezun," Cod declared over the broadcast to all crew members, as a testament to our resolve to reclaim Earth from the space noids. As the fleet reached the safe zone, he engaged the remote detonator. There was no turning back now. For them, the only option left was to march forward, to new horizons. Crew members aboard each ship, eager to witness the final moment of what was once home, crowded around any window or screen that offered a view. After a brief delay, the nuclear bombs planted within Pezun received the detonation signal. In unison, they erupted, reducing the asteroid to cosmic dust. The brilliance of the explosion was so intense that it could be observed with the naked eye from the Earth, now welcoming its twilight. This light was the will of new Decides, and at the same time, it was the distant harbinger of a tragedy that would eventually engulf the lunar cities as well.